Hello there, welcome to lesson number 2 in our series on using FluidDesigner for 3D printing to create pendants. In today's lesson we're going to use some Nurbs Circles to create a happy face pendant, and we're going to show you how you can manipulate the Nurbs Circles in some different ways. So if you start up FluidDesigner, we need to go to Jewellery Projects, Learning Projects, Jewellery Projects, Pendants, and we're doing lesson number 02, so it's 02. Clown face pendant. I'll just switch on the screencast key, so any key presses I make should be displayed here, and I'll just move that panel back slightly. So we're going to try and recreate this clown face pendant here out of this object on the right, and what we've got here is we've pre-built this for you. There is a Nurbs circle here, and you can add Nurbs circles by going to add curve and Nurbs circle. So Nurbs circles are curves. This is also a Nurbs circle. This is another one. There's a small one here, hole for the chain, and this is also a Nurbs circle on the outside. And what we've done is we've joined them all together, and we've also set them up to be 2D objects, 2D curves, rather than 3D curves. And that's quite important for doing this particular project of creating this pendant. Okay, so now in terms of creating these yourself, you can build them from scratch, but also what we've done in FluidDesigner for 3D printing, if you click on Group Library to refresh this screen if there's nothing displayed, if you go to 3D Templates Nurbs Circles, there are some pre-built ones for you that you can just drag and drop. So there's one here with 1 Nurbs circle, 2 Nurbs circles, 3, 4 and 5. So you don't need to build your own, you can just drag and drop those onto the workspace depending upon how many circles you want in the center. So what do we need to do now? Well, clearly we need to switch into edit mode so we can manipulate this object. But what I would generally do first of all is to go to view and view it from the top, so we're looking directly down on it. Now if you look at this object here, at the moment you can see the back of it. What's happening is we're currently in perspective mode. We're in top mode, but we're in perspective mode. And I would generally switch that from perspective to ortho. When you switch to ortho, you get a more flat view of the object. You don't get to see the back of it, and generally I would work in this mode. It is up to you. You can switch to perspective mode if you like and work with it looking like that. My recommendation is to switch to ortho and work like that. If I just view it from the top again now, I'm just moving this across the screen. So what I want to do is I want to modify this eye here now to make it look like this one on the left. Well, first of all, we're not in edit mode at the moment, so we do need to press the tab key on the keyboard to switch into edit mode. And when we're in edit mode, as you can see, there are control points around these circles which we can manipulate. Now we can manipulate them by dragging the arrows. Okay, and I'll just press Ctrl Z on the keyboard to return it to its original position. We can also manipulate them freely. We can manipulate them vertically by dragging the green arrow. We can manipulate them horizontally by dragging the red arrow. So I'll just hit Ctrl Z again to put it back to that start point. If you, however, want to move this freely and position it as it sort of looks here, you can press the G key on the keyboard, and G is for grabbing excuse me, G is for grabbing FluidDesigner. And when we go into grab mode, notice I can move it not just in X but also in the Y direction as well. So you can use G on the keyboard to move a control point freely in any direction. And I'll just come out of that by pressing Ctrl Z to return it to its point. So that's one way of moving a control point. You can move it just vertically, just horizontally, but if you press the G key on the keyboard, you can move it both horizontally and vertically at the same time. Now, in terms of getting a uniform appearance for these eyes, what we would recommend that you do is that you actually switch on something called the snap feature. So if you point at this magnet here and select increment, at the moment we're in centimeters, so the increment is centimeters. So if I drag the green arrow, if I drag it down, notice I can't move it to any position other than exactly 1 centimeter away from the start point. I can't stop in between those 2 points. So switching on the snap forces you into a particular movement. So if I click on this one here now, that will also snap to exactly the same location as this point, because it's moved it exactly 1 centimeter. Now there are times when you want to move things less than centimeters, so what you have to do, and we'll select this point here, you have to zoom in, so I'm scrolling the center mouse button until the millimeter grid is displayed, and you can then move it in 1 millimeters at a time. So I'm going to move it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, 5 millimeters. And if I do the same on the other side, moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can get a uniform appearance here. And then I want to manipulate this side, so if I click on that control point, and this time I'm just going to move it 1, 2 millimeters, and do the same on the other side, 1, 2 millimeters. And what I've done there is I've just got the 2 eyes, whoops, I've just got the 2 eyes to look the same. So I'm mirroring what we've got over here. Now if we look at the mouth area, what I want to do there is, well, I want to drag this one, and I'm going to drag it 1 up, 1 centimeter that is, 1 to the right, 1 down, and again 1 to the right. So that's what you know, those are different ways of doing it. Using G to grab, or using the arrows and using the snap. Of course you can work without the snap, and you can work freely, but you won't get this uniform appearance. Now I can switch the snap off if I want. I've basically got the shape that I want, except that this is now a curve and it's got no thickness, so I can't print it. So what I need to do, first of all, I'll come out of edit mode now, because I'm not going to move those control points anymore. But in the properties window, with the curve data identified, what I need to do is I need to add some thickness to this object, give it some depth, and we do that with these objects by using the extrude function. So if I click on here, you'll see I give it some depth. Now the important thing to understand about extrude is that this says 10 millimeters, but if we look at the main information icon, the value for Z, the blue arrow, the blue direction is the Z direction. The value for Z is now 20 millimeters. So we've set the extrude at 10, but the thickness is 20. And what's happening is when we do extrude, we extrude it 10 millimeters up from the grid, but 10 millimeters down from the grid, which gives you a total thickness of 20. Now we actually only want to extrude it by 3 millimeters to copy this one over here. So it's 3 millimeters up, 3 millimeters down. That gives you a total thickness of 6 millimeters. Now if we zoom in on this object over here, you'll see that the edge of the object isn't square. What we've done is put a beveled edge. We don't want sharp edges quite often in objects. This is a kind of sharp edge. Well, I say we don't want. You can if you choose to, but we can also smooth off the edge by giving it a bevel. And we do that by changing the bevel depth here. Now if I change it to 1 millimeter, it's a pretty dramatic bevel. And as you can see, it doesn't just affect this rim, it affects all the rims around the object. One is a bit dramatic, so what we would tend to suggest you do is to type in something like 0.2 mm for millimeters. You do need the millimeters, and that will give it a small bevel on the edge all the way around the object. Okay, so there we are. We've manipulated our mesh now. Another thing that we'll just have a look at is if we click on material here, and if we change the material to wireframe, you can see how these objects are made up. Now this isn't the finished object at the moment, but in wireframe view you can see the individual Nurbs circles. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Nurbs circles. We have added some thickness to it, but we've not actually applied these thicknesses yet. So the two objects are looking a little bit different. This is actually a mesh, the object, the finished object on the left. This is still a curved object because we haven't applied these modifiers yet. And so what we always have to do to change curves into meshes in FluidDesigner, we go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. And as you can see, as we do that, this panel changes. We've not got any curved data icon anymore, so we can't make those changes anymore. What we've got here is a mesh, and we've got triangulated faces on the top of the mesh, as we do have in the finished object. And you can see that best in wireframe mode. So if we switch back to material mode, what you should also notice is it's changed from grey to this white colour. Okay, so there's our finished clown face. So what we can do is delete the original one by pressing X on the keyboard and deleting it. This is the one that we've created today. So what we want to do is save this. We would always say in FluidDesigner, go to File and Save As. Just go up through the menu system. Look for, we're doing pendants, so it's My Projects, Jewellery Projects, Pendants. And we save the clown face pendant as a Blender file. Now the way that this has been built in FluidDesigner, it will not be a perfect object in terms of 3D printing. There will be some problems around these edges because FluidDesigner and Blender, the engine behind it, is not perfectly built for creating 3D printable objects. So what we need to do is to export this in a printable file format, and we need to fix it in Netfabb Basic. So we do that by going to File and Export. We export the wavefront object. That's the format we tend to use. And I'm going to export it to the desktop. So it's the clown face pendant, and I export it as an OBJ, as an object file. And if we go to Netfabb Basic, which you can download free from the internet, and you go to Project and Open. If we go to the desktop, if we open Lesson 02 Crown Face Pendant, we'll see that there are some problems with the mesh. That's what this warning red triangle is telling me. But not to worry, I'm pretty sure Netfabb will fix this. So if you go to Extras and run Repair Part, you'll see that Netfabb has made some changes to the mesh. We've got all these yellow lines around it telling us that there are some problems. So if we just drag the window across so it fits in my video capture window, if I click Update, you can see there are quite a few holes, 36 holes, that's not that many. 3,832 border edge problems, that's where all these yellow lines are. So there are some issues here. Now these are very minor, and if we click on Automatic Repair and execute the default repair, notice that the yellow lines all disappear. The border edges disappear. We've still got holes according to this, and we've still got 17 shells. But if we click Update, notice the holes disappear, and now there's just one shell. So Netfabb has fixed all of these problems, and as you can see, there's no real change to the mesh. We're talking at very minute level. Somewhere in here, it's fixed it for us, but you can't really see it. Okay, so what we need to do is to click Apply Repair and remove the old part. And notice the warning red triangle is now gone. So what we need to do is to go to Part, export it as a wavefront object, export it to the desktop. So this O2 clown face pendant repaired, that's the printable file. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of today's lesson. Thank you.